Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Tim Kachuriak, and we are very glad that you've joined us for today's webinar. We've got a lot to cover today, and I've got just a few quick housekeeping notes before we get started. We're going to try to get Facebook Live to work. Our video system just all went down moments before we took to live broadcasting. So we're hoping that works. If it does, it will be found at facebook.com/nextafter_inc. But we'll hang tight and we'll see if Nathan can get that to work while we're getting through our announcements here. We are very excited because once again, we're gearing up for the Nonprofit Innovation and Optimization Summit. This year we have a completely new location. We're going to be in San Antonio, Texas, September 27th and 28th. And we are bringing together cutting, bleeding edge marketers from across the globe. We've got David J.P. Phillips from Sweden, Amy Harrison from the UK, Marie Vano from Estonia, and Carl Gillis from Belgium, and a whole host of other folks speaking on a number of different topics related to digital marketing, fundraising, conversion rate optimization, copywriting, data and analytics, and many, many more different topics. So we hope that you can join us for that. We've got a really cool venue. We're going to be right in the heart of San Antonio on the Riverwalk in the historic Aztec Theater. And I can just tell you, after a couple scouting missions down there, it is such a cool place to enjoy this conference. Kind of like you walk in and it's like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Super, super cool. And because it's actually traditionally a concert venue, we said, well, gosh, we should probably consider having a band to kick off our big party after the first night. The Spasmatics will be joining us on stage. And if you've never seen them, they are an absolute riot, and it should be a great time. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and check out niosummit.com. You can get your tickets, and we hope to see you in San Antonio. As I mentioned, we are trying. Nathan, how are we doing? Looks like he's still working over there. We may be live on Facebook, we may not. But if so, it'll be at facebook.com/nextafterinc, and you can view us live or maybe not. A few quick just other housekeeping notes. We always get asked this question, so let me just make sure that everybody's aware. We are recording today's broadcast. We will be sending a copy of today's broadcast out at the conclusion of the webinar, and it's usually will go out towards the end of the day, but just to let everyone know that you can view that later. Also, we will be sending out links to any resources or experiments used in today's presentation. And finally, we don't want this to be just a monologue. We hope that it can be, in fact, a dialogue. And built into GoToWebinar is the ability for you to submit questions. And so we hope you do so. We try to answer as many of those questions as we can at the conclusion of the broadcast. So if you have a question, click on your little questions tab, enter your question, and we will try to address those later today. And also, if Facebook's working, you can also use Facebook Live and input your question there. Okay, so today is a little bit of a different type of topic. In the past, we usually are talking about things that you should do when it comes to optimizing your fundraising program. But today, we're going to focus on kind of a contrarian point of view. We're going to talk about things you should avoid doing to not disrupt the flow of activity that's happening on your donation page specifically. So to get things started, we're going to go ahead and get things rolling with an experiment. This is a test in our experiment research library 8808 performed with the Leadership Institute. It's a real simple research question. Which donation page design is going to generate the most donations? So we can see version A. This is the original donation page. I'll give you a chance to take a look at that. Nice, clean, and two-column layout. Let's look at version B. This is the treatment. And you can see there's a little bit more activity happening on this page. There's some more copy, and it scrolls down from top to bottom. You can see the full page, and you can see them side by side. The original's on the left, the treatment's on the right. And we ran an A/B split test, and what we found is that the treatment produced 135% increase in donations. But it also delivered 87% increase in average gifts, which combined to produce 340% more revenue to the donation page. Now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking like, what? Now, I mean, you think about this. This is the main donation of the website. So somebody had to go to the website from some various different source. Maybe they Googled the name of the organization and got there that way, or maybe they're familiar with the organization and came directly by typing in the URL string. But regardless, they landed on the web page and they clicked on the donate button in the top right-hand corner of the navigation, and they arrived at this web page. And yet, even though they've shared this intent of actually giving a gift, by making some changes to that donation page, that deep into this kind of conversion pathway, we saw a significant increase in revenue. And this is exactly what we're going to talk about in today's webinar. And so let me take a moment to introduce our presenter, Jon Powell. We're very happy to have Jon Powell in the Dallas office today. You're not having to do that. We're not having to do this virtually.
No virtual. This is it.
So Jon Powell is our Senior Director of Research and Education, and he is just an absolute brilliant communicator when it comes to really pulling out some of these meaningful truisms from our research and actually explaining them so that you can apply them to your own organization. So Jon,
yes,
how do we explain this phenomenon? I mean, people, they basically have shared this intent that they want to give a gift. They click donate. They get to the donation page, but yet not everybody converts. What's going on there?
Right. Well, I think the best way for me to explain this would be with a story, actually. And this isn't my story. This is somebody else's story. This is actually a story from one of my professors at Wichita State University here, actually at the Barton School of Business. So this was a marketing professor. Her name, Miss Headley, I believe. She teaches a number of different classes there, and also she runs her own survey business, for big businesses. So she is a CEO. She is very successful, and she's good. And this is all way back when I was in college, and everything is still going, right? So on top of that, she told me this story about how she wanted to buy this car. She knew what kind of car she wanted. She knew the colors. She knew what kind of, she was pretty much sold on it, and she clearly could afford it, right? So she's like, you know what, I'm just going to go to the dealership, and I'm going to go, just check it out one last time, right? And I'm going to purchase this car, and I'm good, right? And so she brought, her husband naturally is very supportive. He's like, yeah, I'll come with you, right? And so she gets to the dealership, and the particular salesperson that they have comes up and starts talking to the husband. And clearly, he's kind of indicating, well, it's actually her, but he keeps paying attention to the husband, right? And this isn't the actual picture, but this is just a stock photo. But this just to give you a sense, like she is nowhere in this guy's picture. And so, of course, she wanted to test drive it. She's thinking, okay, well, should I do this or not? So get this. The sales guy gets in the driver's seat, okay, puts the husband in the passenger front seat and puts his wife, my teacher, in the back seat, and yet she is the one that wants this car. She is the one that's after this, okay? So he doesn't trust her to drive it. They go, and so he's talking to the husband, not even paying attention to her, and then he drives off to some remote little parking lot, gets out and says, hey, you want to drive this? Of course, she's like, okay, fine, whatever. So she drives a little bit. He goes back and he's like, yeah, so you ready to get the paperwork? Ready to get started? What do you think she said? No, she decided not to buy the car, specifically from that dealership, okay, because of the way she was treated when she arrived, even though she had the motivation to get it, the money, everything, right? And so here's the thing. The same thing happens with people who are coming to our main donation page of all different pages, right? And they get there, and then all of a sudden, they decide not to donate, as you could see in the introduction. Now, the big question is why? Why does this happen, right? Why is it that she decided not to buy the car? Why is it that people come to our donation page and decide not to make the gift? Well, on one hand, somebody's wanting to go and they want to accomplish this mission they already have in their mind. But here's the thing. In every case, in every human being, this is human nature. On the other hand, there's this part of somebody that wants to second guess their choice or find reason to turn back, to stay at the status quo, even when the desire is great, okay? This part exists, and if you give this part food, if you give this part fuel, it could get so bad that it could tip, and point to the other direction. And here's the thing. The reason why the treatment won, guys, the reason why the treatment won, everybody, was because it pre-addressed all of the mistreatment that the original page made to the donor. Mistreatment, right? So they were coming in, they were ready. They had to click on something. They had to go to the website. They had to navigate around. They had to click on something, and then they were there. So they're indicating interest, and yet they're stopping at that point. Okay? Something has happened, right? And why does this happen? Well, people react to websites in the same way they react to people. That's why I told that story. That's why I'm relating that story to this incident. Okay? That is a core foundation of what we believe and what we've discovered in all the testing, 1,000+ experiments, is this truth. So my question to you is this. Would you want to know if you were mistreating somebody's generosity, if you were mistreating their donation, their desire to donate, their motivation? Would you want to know? And if yes, well then guess what? This is the webinar for you. Because we're going to talk about things, 19 specific things that you could be doing that could be potentially mistreating some of your donors, right? Now, it's not all of them are guaranteed to do so in your cases, but I promise you that there's a large quantity of them that are going to be affecting your donors simply because they are human beings, right? So that's what we're going to do. Now, listen, guys, 19 things is a lot of things to remember, right? You know what I mean? We got 19 here. It's a lot to remember. So we've put them together in 5 key categories. So that way it's easier to recall. And then when you go back to the session, you can go look for the little tactic later. So let's get started. Here are the 5 key areas right here. You got your main message, your template design, your donation selection, your personal information input, and the support message. These are generally the 5 bedrocks of any donation page. But within each of these areas are key principles that are the common denominators to all the problems that we're trying to address, all the things that we're trying to avoid. Remember, this is a webinar about what not to do, not what to do. Okay, let's start with the first one and the most interesting and prominent one for the main donation page, because there are different donation pages. Let's work on the main message area. So guys, I had a really interesting kind of aha moment that I have to tell you about. So I don't know if you guys are into Chinese food. I think one night, like, my wife is just like, I don't want to cook. And so she's like, okay, we're going to Panda Express, right? And so I go to Panda Express, I get the normal stuff, right? I bring it home. And, at the same time, I've been working on this research. And all of a sudden, I just dawned upon me. I stopped. And, my wife's just like, what are you doing? Why are you just standing there staring? She's wanting to know what I was staring at. And what I was staring at was this, a fortune cookie. Why are you staring at that fortune cookie, John? Is there something wrong with you? Like, I can just hear her saying that, right? Like, what's wrong with you? Well, in that moment, I had this understanding, based on all the research, that our main donation page, the main message, the big thing, the thing that has almost probably arguably the most impact is like a fortune cookie. What do you mean it's like a fortune cookie? Let me explain. Let me help you. It's all right here. Let me help you explain it, understand it. So here it is. Think about it. I don't know about you, but fortune cookies are kind of fun, right? But there's nothing more disappointing in a fortune cookie than no message, right? I don't know about you, but I don't like missing the message. I absolutely it's like, oh man, it's a letdown. It's a major letdown, okay, for the fortune cookie, right? All right, so that's the first thing, okay? And I'm going to show you an example of that for a donation page, right? There's no message. But okay, what if you are not one of the unlucky ones and you actually get one? Would you believe that some people, even though we know a fortune cookie is kind of a mass-produced thing, they look into this? I just pulled this off of Reddit, right? So, for all of you Redditors out there, a short stranger will soon enter your life with blessings to share. Oh my gosh, my wife is 24 weeks pregnant and look at her fortune cookie. Like, they believe like it's this divine thing. Like, they want to believe it. They have this, like, even though we know, right? If you take a look at the screen, these fortune cookies are completely mass produced. You know what I mean? Right? Here's the thing. When it comes to our donation pages, right? We need to have that effect. We need to write our copy like it's a fortune cookie. If it's too specific or too long, then you know what? People are like, oh yeah, this is enough. Like, they're not going to, it's got to be general enough so that they could connect with it and maybe have that little bit of hope. Like, oh, this could be a divine thing, right? All right. But it can't be too specific, right? It's got to have the numbers and things that you could go, okay, for those, for those betting guys out there, right? Oh, my lucky numbers, right? Okay. But at the same time, if you don't have any message at all, right, which is the first one, okay, if you don't have any message at all, you're really disappointed. Write your copy for your main donation page like you're writing for a fortune cookie. Let me give you some examples. Let's go to the first one. Intro copy. Little to no substance at all. Do not forget to put the message in the fortune cookie, my friends. Okay. The first one is a dead giveaway. Let's take a look at this example. Okay, yeah, here, there's like nothing over here, okay? You see that? There's nothing, right? Very little. I mean, gosh, it looks kind of like a graphic. I could just skip over it. Here, we just put some basic reason, like here's a reason. This is who we are. This is why you should donate. We just answer that question very generally. We didn't get too specific here. But what was the result? 150% increase in donations. 150% increase. Wow, I'll take that, right? Put the message in the fortune cookie, folks, right? Don't forget that. Another thing, fortune cookie writing, they're not writing really specific, fortunes and all that, because then people are like, they're not going to be able to fill in the gaps with what's already in their mind, right? So let's take a look at this one. This is also from a general donation page. Here you can see kind of general, got some bullets. We're not going too specific, right? Can you tell how this is different for all those of you who are on our November webinar? This is different, right? Look over here. We got more specific, got more narrative, got more into it, and guess what? We lost people. We lost people by talking too much, by getting too detailed. Why? Because people are coming to the page with their own motivation. They have something in mind. Okay, this is why I'm going to support the organization. They simply want to make sure that on the left, they want to make sure that it's all generally aligned. They need to be able to see something, and they need to be able to fill their thing in their mind in the blank and connect with it. But if it's too specific, you start isolating people. Does that make sense? And they lost in this case. Next, multimedia. So when I say multimedia, I'm talking about things like video, okay? Try using video instead of text. And in a lot of cases, many cases, you may find that you're actually going to be hurting your chances for a donation. I'll give you an example, okay? We ran this test where, we've got a video message from the president, and it was just a transcription. This is word for word right there, transcription. Would you believe that resulted in a 500% plus increase in donations, right? Why? Why is that? Tim had one of the best answers for that. Video is one of the least empathetic mediums because it forces you to follow the direction in your mind of what the director has chosen. The director has chosen the time. They've chosen, how long it's going to be. They've chosen all of these different things. And that's what you just have to sit through it and experience it. With the text, you can read it on your own speed. You can imagine the details in your own mind. You become the director, right? And that's what it is with the fortune cookie, okay? You fill in the blanks of the fortune. Oh my gosh, my wife is pregnant. Short little stranger. That short little stranger could just be, my wife, because she's short, okay? She's nice. She may give you some blessings, okay? Sorry, Joyce, if you're listening to this, but, she's not the tallest person in the world, and neither am I, but you see what I'm saying? You could fill in the blank, but with the video, you can't fill in the blank. Fortune cookie. Finally, transition to action copy. There is none, if you don't have any of this, well, you're just, no. That's why they put the numbers and the lucky numbers on the back of the fortune, right? So you can go do something about that divine feeling that you have, right? And I don't know, you probably shouldn't do that, by the way. I'm just for the sake of the metaphor, right? So if we could take a look here, we started off here general. Okay, this is even a membership site, for nonprofit membership, but we tied it all together and helped them kind of reel it in, right? Okay, let's make that transition back to what we want you to do. We started off with it, now we're gonna make that transition. In this case, nearly 50% increase in donations. Does this make sense to you, everybody? Do you guys get this? Like it's all, think when I'm gonna write my main message for my main donation page, I gotta think fortune cookie, okay? Not too specific, but don't forget the fortune. Make sure you transition them, okay? And don't force them down some road that they can't fill in the blanks in their own mind, okay? We good? That's the most exciting part. Actually, no, there's more, but it's fun, right? So that's one major difference that I really want you to pay attention to. Now we're going to talk about the second one, which is template design. Some of you are thinking, oh, okay, this shouldn't be a big deal, right? Template design, right? How is this going to matter? And you see it's all circled around the template. Well, let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been to a party or been to some sort of social thing or have had a conversation with a person where you were so distracted by the thing that they were wearing that you just couldn't focus on the conversation at all? One of my favorite movie moments is this. For all of you guys who love My Cousin Vinny, he was getting flack from the judge because he wasn't dressed up. And then when he decided to get a suit, all of a sudden he got mud all over it and he had to find a suit last minute. And he said, I'm wearing this ridiculous thing for you, right? He knew it was ridiculous. He was getting stared at, and the judge was like, this is distracting, right? I don't want your page to be like this suit. And right? Felt and all of that. No, if your page is designed too much, or the elements of design or the elements are too distracting around it, then you're going to find people that came in with the right intention and then they veered off because you let them veer off, right? No unsupervised thinking. Okay, so take a look here. There are 4 or 5 different things, examples of this, right? Let's start with the header exit links. Okay, believe it or not, even in general donation pages, this is just another reason right here. This is just another reason for them to exit, right? If you can find a way to just go ahead and hide those in this particular page, and look at this poor page. It doesn't even have it. It doesn't even have a message. But would you believe that those links had a significant difference? Now, I think this was a slightly lower sample size than some of the other ones, but it is significant statistically. So my point to you here is that you be careful about giving them a reason to exit. Here's another one, side exit links. Okay, take a look. In this case, look at all this other stuff that they could be doing, all right? Imagine just getting rid of that. You're taking this picture, you can move it over here, right? And so the result is this on the right. 5.5% increase in donations. Now, you guys be like, 5%. Listen, 5%, focus on the family. They're a fairly large organization. That could make a major difference, right? So that's something that I want you to focus on. Next. Let's go to header donate button, okay? Header donate button, all right? I'm sure you guys all love this, right? And you're thinking, okay, the great thing about header donate button, right? This guy right here. The wonderful thing about it is they can just skip the message, right? They can go right into it. You can't assume that motivation, guys, in this case, right? Because the message, remember, we talked about the fortune cookie. If there's no message in the fortune cookie, you got a problem, right? As you can see in this case, 28.2% decrease in donations, even if it's just one of those anchor links that just scrolls the page. Because they need to be aligned, they need to be reminded, okay, yep, I am in the right place. The thing that's in my mind fits with what this organization is talking about, therefore I'm good. So don't do that. If you can, go ahead and eliminate that. We've never found an instance where it hurt. Let's talk about text formatting. Even the formatting, you got to be careful. Some people are like, yeah, we did this website redesign. We just want to make sure everything matches. Well, take a look. We had an instance where, we had this very, okay, yep. We want to match the formatting. We want to match the look and feel, the rest of the website. Well, guess what? By making that change, and not even all the bullets over here are represented, because look what happened. It expanded the page. It made it look longer. Result, 28% decrease in donations. Guys, I don't believe it. I had to look at the data like 3 times, but it's there. It's correct. So that's the conclusion that we've come to. So just be careful about that. And that covers our template design section, right? But you see the common denominator, again, with the template design section, is that it's all about distraction. Don't distract your donors. They're coming in. They have something in their mind. Make sure that you don't give them a reason to stop and go look at something else. Okay. Next thing I'd like to talk about is donation selection, specifically our suggested gift arrays or options, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. Now, let's think about the relationship with the donor, okay? Let's go back to what Tim was talking about. They're coming in. They had to seek this page out, which means they probably typed in the website, which means they have a relationship with you, which means they have an understanding. They've probably been receiving your emails, right? I know some of you send, some of your campaign traffic to your main donation page. Don't do that. We've got a webinar on that. But, for the people that are coming here, they've indicated some relationship. And the reason why I've chosen this image is because in the donor's mind, it's already kind of figured out. They already have a mind. They already feel comfortable. They already have something in mind. They already feel comfortable with it. But the problem is when we express a lack of trust in that relationship. And how do we do that? Well, in some cases, it's with a gift array. I don't trust you to choose the right amount. I don't trust that relationship. Therefore, I'm going to tell you what's right or wrong. Now, this isn't the case with everybody. But what the real issue is here, my friends, is that it's almost like we're trying to game them or we're trying to say, no, we're going to get you on the, it's like taking candy from, we're going to use these cool little tricks to try and get them to give more. When the point is you should just be nurturing and guiding somebody along and just, it should be about a relationship. It should not be about gaming them or getting them to just give a little bit more. This is not voodoo, okay? This is not something that you can plug in and make it work. I get so irritated sometimes when people treat marketing like it's voodoo, like it's a software you could buy and plug into a USB port, okay? When you do that here, it gets you hurt. Let me show you some examples. Now, this isn't the case with everybody. We've done this test where it had no difference, okay? But we have seen this impact show a difference. Number 10, do I use a multiple choice array on a main donation page? Well, you need to test that, and I'll tell you why. Our friends at CaringBridge, we optimized this over here, right? This is optimized. This is like iteration number 3 or 4, okay? We went from like a 3 to a 6 or something like that. But then we actually looked at the data, and the data indicated to us that maybe these people have a better relationship with us than we would assume. Like we're assuming the worst about them. And, so we said, well, what if we trusted them to put in their own amount? Trust, oh my goodness, what a thing, right? 126% increase in donations. Now, is this going to work for everybody? No. In some cases, when the average gift is really low or lower than average in this channel, people need that. That's indicating that they need guidance. I mean, what is a gift array good for anyway? It's for giving people honest feedback about what's acceptable. I was just at Disney World, actually. And one of the things, when you dine at Disney World, it's such an international place. There's so many people from around the globe there. They put suggested tipping amounts, and to a lot of people, it's not an insult. It's like a tip. It's like, how much do I tip? Right? And that's what a gift array is like. It's like, how much is acceptable for me to participate in this, right? But if people are coming to this page or indicating that they have a strong relationship with you and a strong motivation, why are we telling them? Why are we showing a lack of trust? That's why this is something you should test, okay? This is a test you should run. Don't go and say, John told me to make it no array. No, don't do that. Run the test. Get to know your people. Figure out where you are in a relationship with them. And you may find that you're actually getting in the way because you're just trying to squeeze a little bit more, okay? Well, maybe not, but that's how it seems on their end. Here's another one, upsell copy. Membership organizations, especially, I'm pointing here, right? Sometimes we're like, well, only if they knew that they could be a part of this one, right? Now you're starting to act a little bit more transactional, right? And the moment you start acting transactional, the moment you lose that part of them that brought them there in the first place. And now all of a sudden they're thinking, okay, how much am I, now they're like benefits, features, and you've lost them. You've killed it. You've killed the sale, right? In this case, we lost about 22% increase, 22% revenue comparatively, right? By trying to upsell them. And, you've got to be careful with this. And the reason why this happens is because you change the feeling. It goes from a feeling of giving and generosity to a transactional mindset. Even the slightest thing can make a difference, right? So I just want you to be wary of that. I'm not giving you rules here, guys. I'm telling you principles, right? Finally, the recurring gift selection. Who goes to a main donation page to make a recurring gift? Not a ton of people. Some people do, but most people don't. So if you started off this way, take a look at this. On the left, it's totally recurring giving. In fact, you're like, well, John, that's a 7 option array. You're right. The reason why it's that way is because, we're trying to, we're thinking people are going to do the math. We want to give it somewhat equal. But even when we give them more options, which start at a lower amount, but it's monthly and it's defaulted, okay, not only did less people give, but they gave less. And this is factoring in the 12-month and the attrition and the average lifetime value, all of that. I mean, it's a math game at this point. But playing the math game didn't help us here, okay? Because it shouldn't be about the math game. It should be about the relationship. It should be about treating the donor's generosity and motivation appropriately. So how would I wrap up the section to you? And I'm going to back up just so you can see all three options. Am I saying do all of these three things? What I'm saying is run your tests and just be sure, especially in this area. We did a whole meta-analysis on this, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more at the end of this webinar, okay? But I just don't try and play the math game with people, okay? That's where you get the danger, okay? So let's go into the next section, and that's the next section, and that's personal information input, okay? The best way for me to explain the pitfalls, again, we're talking about things that we need to avoid, right? The best way that I can explain what's going on in this category is with the old-fashioned, I'm at Walmart all the time, guys. And I don't know if you've done it, but I've abandoned my cart or abandoned my stuff because the line was too long. I'm guilty as charged, guilty. Okay. Apparently Tim is guilty too. So we're all guilty of it. Right. But let me tell you something. These lines are not as bad as they seem, right? I swiped a little something from the Wall Street Journal reporting, right? So this is a guy named Mike did this. There's the science of lines. What's really happening at checkout. And let me tell you two of my favorite parts of this whole infographic, right? Okay. The first part is this. Once a wait lasts longer than 3 minutes, the perceived, really important word, wait time multiplies with each passing minute. Shoppers who actually waited 5 minutes told surveyors they felt like they had waited 10 minutes. Do you see what's going on here? Next one. Bailing out. Men are more likely to give up on a line than women. Men start to inflate the amount of time they believe they have waited in line after just 2 minutes. Okay, what is the point that I'm trying to make here is that on this part of our donation page where they've already selected the amount, they're already imagine they're at Walmart and they've put something in the cart. They go up to the line. If they perceive, some people are super sensitive. If they perceive that it's going to take them too long to do this, they might decide to come back later. And guess what happens when they decide to come back later? They don't come back. Okay? They forget. Honest mistake, right? Except when you email them to remind them, only half of them even open it. You see, it's already a losing proposition. So here are 4 different areas where we've seen this phenomenon occur, right? The first one is with input fields. Okay, let me show you this. Okay, we're right here. All we did in this case, is especially for our desktop folks, instead of forcing them down the mobile template, look what we did. We lined up fields next to each other, right? And the whole goal of that was to save space. Okay? Now, what was the result of this test? 39.4% increase in donations, right? You guys can't forget your desktop folks. They're still making a lot of donations, and in many cases, the majority. Right? So my point to you here is now this might not be the case for you, but it's something that we look at because it could potentially be a mistreatment of their motivation. Next thing, the phone field. Guys, you can ask for a phone field as long as it's optional. We've run this test, right? And we've seen it make no difference on generosity. But the moment that the cell phone even, look at that. The moment that you require it, what happens? Oh my goodness. People start freaking out, even though they put their credit card in there. You would think that they would be okay giving you their phone if they give you their credit card, but apparently not. Listen, make it optional, all right? That way you don't have this problem. Next, alternate payment methods. When you start playing around with things like Apple Pay and PayPal, listen, in some cases it may help, right? But you can't assume that it's going to help. Oh yeah, we just launched PayPal, score, win. Well, this is the case. This is the story of somebody that had conducted research with us in which they decided, oh yeah, we're going to totally add PayPal. Look, it's not even in the main path. The main path goes this way. Okay, the credit card fields are way down here. Would you believe that just adding that resulted in a 65.3% decrease in donations? And for anybody that's ever used PayPal, well, yeah, I don't know, like if you forget your password or this or that, like you've got to be a pretty good user of PayPal in order to have a seamless experience using it. Okay. Why they've left, your site and all of this stuff. And then once you put in the information, it's got to work. It's got to kind of translate back to your site. There's a lot of things talking. Don't assume. Make sure you run your tests. We've ran a test on Apple Pay, and you know what? There wasn't a difference. Thank God. That's really awesome. Except that doesn't mean it's going to be the case with everybody. So make sure that you run that test. Verification pages. This is one of those things you just got to get rid of. Okay? Let me show you. This looks like a receipt page, does it not? Little did people know that they got to click on this button to finish. How many people do you think thought that they were done and left? To the tune of about 176% increase in revenue. 176% increase. So if you have any confirmation pages, you might want to rethink it. And that takes care of it for personal information input. So you can see, we're 4 through. Now we're coming up on number 5 and the last one of the group. Okay. And this is the support message category. Let me ask you a question actually. How many of you have ever experienced a situation where somebody spoke too soon? Or when somebody spoke too late? Be like, oh, I love you. It's too late now, man. You know what I mean? Those are sad situations, right? Or the timing was just off, right? Even though the timing or the placement was off. Well, in a digital environment, the proximity of two things has an impact on our perception of timing and flow, right? Okay. So if we're having a conversation with you, with your webpage, I ask a question, you answer it with a piece of copy. Then I ask the next question, you answer it again, right? The way in which you make sure that a certain piece of information or certain answer is come at a certain time is to position them close together, right? In this case, these two guys right here. I have a question, is this secure? Oh, there it is. There's the answer. But what happens if I take something like this and put it up here, right? Well, let me show you some practical examples of where we've seen this in real life, right? So here's one, right? Poor placement. It's not like these two started up at the same time. I would like to think that the homemade ice cream pie kitchen was like, oh man, we totally got these guys, right? So maybe it wasn't, but for the customer, it's a total and complete fail, right? Because every time I go and try to make a difference, I have to fight the ice cream and pie. Okay, right? But my all-time personal favorite, forgive me, Tim, is this one. I'm a church-going guy, but I think that was the wrong order. I think that's the wrong order. Okay, sorry, we could all chuckle about it. But this just goes to show how important timing and placement is, right? So let's look at some practical examples. Inline reviews. Like, guys, reviews are great. Reviews are wonderful. But I don't want you to just put them there thinking that they're going to give you a gain. Because what happens if they're too specific? Remember fortune cookie, fortune cookie, fortune cookie. It's got to be general enough. Well, in this case, we decided to add a little testimony. But here's the thing. I guess it doesn't look too specific. But what happened when we put it at the wrong time? Oh my goodness, man, bad testimonial. Right? Testimonials are supposed to help, right? But if we don't time it right, or if it's the wrong type of testimonial at the wrong time, it could actually hurt. And this is something that usually helps you. It's all about timing. It's all about timing, guys. So my advice there is test it first. Okay? I'm not saying that testimonials in line are bad. I'm saying test it. Don't just put it there. Okay? Credit card input section. Guys, I know you. You're not going to send somebody to a insecure or not secure page, whichever the correct terminology is, right? But your customers don't know that. Your donors don't know that, right? So you can't get this fade and this Photoshop, this lock without, you don't even need Photoshop for that lock. I think you can just go into Google and find a royalty-free stock icon, right? But in this case, it resulted in a 9.5% increase in donations by not forgetting to do that. We've seen this not have a difference in some places, but in other places, we've seen it as high as 9 to 15%. My point is that's money that throwing away maybe is the wrong word, but that's generosity that you're mistreating. That is donations that can be used to help further your cause. So make sure you treat it properly. And finally, another great example is this below call to action. I told you that in order to answer a certain question at a certain time, it's where you place it on the page. That's the digital way to do it, right? So we have this great and wonderful opportunity below the button. And what do? We put a snail mail address, right? No, I want you to take that opportunity to simply remind them what you've already said, right? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes when it comes to making a donation, like my heart is there and everything, I experience that feeling, and then I go through the process. There might be a part of me, that red part, remember, pulling back on the rope, that's hesitating, be like, maybe I should get a lower amount. But if I have something there to remind me at the right time, remember, timing is the essence, right? It can make a difference. So in this case, 31.3% increase in donations. Is that going to be 31% for you? I don't know. But the point is that people are sensitive to it. It's just about finding out how sensitive your audience is. So we've gone through the 5 areas. I'd like to revisit the original case study and help you see exactly why it lost. Okay? So here we are. Here's the original. Here's the treatment, right? We kind of zoomed through it. Tim zoomed through it, of course, so we could get you the main content. So why, again, did the original lose? And now you have a better idea. In fact, if I were with you live, I would actually have you tell me. I wouldn't even show you the treatment. I would have you tell me the different things, right? But let's go a little bit step by step, all right? And I originally wanted to build this out for you piece by piece, but I didn't have the time or luxury to do that. So let's just use the marker and let's do that this way. The first category was about the fortune cookie, right? There's no fortune here. I mean, compared to what we've seen, like this, your generous tax-deductible support, you're going to make a difference. Make a difference. How? What? You got to have some kind of message that people can fill in the blanks. When I say write like a fortune cookie, don't write like a fortune cookie like one line. Okay? All right? It's got to be enough. It's got to have enough substance, right? There's not even a transition. So there's no message in the fortune cookie, my friends. No message. Number 2, look at these links. They're still there, right? Okay, look at these buttons. They're not even that big. One thing I didn't show you was that even the design of your buttons, if they're not big enough, right? I like big buttons. I can't lie. Okay, guys, I had to say that. I always say that. I stole that actually, by the way, so don't give me credit. But listen, the reason why we choose big buttons is because the mobile, right? People, it's easier to select. Even this approach where they have to go down and then up and then down. In the for-profit world, I've seen a number of different cases when they're buying stuff, they're physically buying stuff, that would just completely throw them off. So it's distraction, my friends, distraction. Let's get rid of the purple felt suit, all right? Let's wear something that blends a little bit more and helps them focus on their generosity. Next, donation selection pitfalls, right? Again, things that we need to avoid, right? We've got a pretty large option gift array. Now, is this wrong? I don't know, but they should test it, right? One thing's for certain, why are we defaulting to the lowest amount? You've just given them permission to give the lowest amount. Like, what would be preferred for you? What's the kind of donation amount that would actually make a decent amount of difference, but is not going to ask for the moon? That's really where you should be focusing. I mean, there are academic papers when we did our meta-analysis that all they focus on is what is defaulted and what is not, okay? So even that alone can make a difference. So I want you to think about that, but they need to think about that. Also, required phone number, right? Here. And, CAPTCHA, right? There's got to be a way for you to set up your page. I don't know, maybe some of you are restrained by your technology, but this is just another thing that makes that Walmart line feel a lot longer than it really is. At least they're doing this, right? They're putting them side by side, right? So they got that. Also, on the support side, there's no security reinforcement, right? There's no lock or nothing that indicates that they're on a secure page. Okay. No impact reinforcement, right? None. Zip. Zero. Zilch. So do you guys understand now why the treatment won? Okay. And I'm just zooming back. Do you understand now why? You see all of these elements? They're all, in the right place. Okay. You've got all of these things, right? Do you understand? Does that make sense? Here's the thing. Just one quick reminder. Don't let your main donation page mistreat your donor's motivation, right? There are probably a couple of things that you can do to help accelerate the motivation they already have. But generally, when it comes to the main donation page, it's about getting out of their way. Because people react to websites in the same way they react to people, right? The same irritants, okay? Just think of that story, okay? Somebody's buying a car. They're already ready already. For those of you guys who watched those commercials back in the 90s, right? They're already ready already, okay? Don't get in their way. Just go with their flow and help them to imagine themselves, imagine what they have in their mind, help them to align that with what you already have. But don't isolate people. For those of you that are like, okay, I want a template, I've got a template for you. Here's the thing that I need to tell you about templates, okay? This isn't what I would call gospel truth, but it's research driven, which means we periodically update this template with the latest research to help you have the best possible start, okay? So this is the kind of thing that will give you a really good start. And then from there, you just do your testing and your tweaking to see what works best for your particular audience. So that's nextafter.com/main donate, and you'll be able to go and fill out a form to download that particular item. And there's one more thing, but wait, there's more. What you have just experienced is actually a snippet of what we've prepared, what we're preparing right now. It's a donation and landing page optimization entire course, right? So, you're going to have the opportunity to be the first ones to have the special knowledge, right? Based off of a lot of different meta-analyses, right? 9 video sessions, templates and tools. If you have any questions, right? Email acquisition, so that's everything for email acquisition pages, general donation page, we just talked about that, a campaign donation page, and even instant donation pages. You're like, instant donation page? I didn't even know what that was before Next After. But an instant donation page is one great way to recover some of the costs that you put into a paid source to gather names, right? So I just want to let you know that this is on the horizon. I just did a review with the team members just yesterday, and I've got more review tomorrow. We are on track, and we're looking to release in May at some point. So if you want to be the first to have the special knowledge to bring it to your team, then we're going to send you an email afterwards with a link that you can click on that you could sign up for it. Okay. In fact, you don't even need to wait for that email. It's right there. nextafter.com/donation-course. So if you want to be the first, right? The best part is that it's free. I should let you guys know too. Tim and the team here, they're so super generous, right? They really believe in this. Like where I come from, because I spent a lot of years in the for-profit space, also developing training based off of research and hundreds of case studies. These kind of courses usually come up to about $600 a piece from back in that world. And not only are these courses of the same quality, but they're actually better. They're better than what I've produced in the for-profit world. So I just want to hats off to you, Tim and team, for making it free. So I just want to say, don't miss out on the opportunity to get that knowledge, because that's what makes my job worth doing every day, day in and day out. With that, any questions?
Well, Jon, thank you so much. Brilliant job as always here. Don't go away. Don't go away. We've got some questions here.
Nice. No, run away.
So one question here about the wording of the donation button. Have we done any testing around the wording of the donation button itself? What should that be called? Should it be called Give Now, Support Us, Donate? What have we learned from the lab?
I do know that we've done testing around that, like home pages leading up, but on the donation page itself, The only thing I could say is we haven't had a lot of isolated experiments there, given the amount of traffic. With the homepage, we've got a lot of traffic, right? And so we have found that there's a difference there, and you can find that in our library. But for the donation page itself, give your amount now or whatnot. Those types of wordings where it's very much value neutral, it's just restating what you've already agreed to, is probably the safest thing that you could go with. The thing that I would avoid is anything that implies some kind of a negative connotation like submit. You know what I mean? Just take me back about 5 years and I'll give you a rant about the word submit. But I would suggest is keep it neutral, help it to reflect what they've already agreed to. And then as we continue to test on the donation page, we'll discover, if there really is a difference there. But generally it's a little bit more difficult to test because of the traffic size.
So you're saying we shouldn't have our donors submit to us? Aren't they supposed to bow down before us and serve us? No?
I don't know about that,
okay.
Tim. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. What about should the give button itself, so this is talking about in the navigation on the homepage, should it link to the ways to give page, or should it go directly to an opportunity for people to give a gift now?
Well, you know me. Their motivation is to give. We should assume that they're ready to give now.
Right.
So you should get them straight to that place, right? And that's why if you take a look at that treatment, the top right corner, it says other ways to give. Think about where that's placed, right? It's placed strategically right next to the X button. Okay. So people are like, no, that's not what I was looking for. They move their mouse up. And then all of a sudden, oh, look, other ways to give. I've seen tests back in my previous life where having a link there actually impacted and saved a lot of potential abandons. So if you're asking me, you're going to want to send them directly to a place where they can give right away and then set up some kind of exit intent strategy. So that could be a pop-up or whatnot where you can say, not ready to give here. Try giving these other ways. So that way you can keep them along that path. That's what I would recommend. Some kind of an exit intent strategy, some way to kind of, if they're indicating that, nope, this is not the way I want to give, you can intercept them before they leave.
Yeah, and generally, like we talk about, we want to try to limit all of the steps that we put between the donor and accomplishing the specific conversion activity. In this case, a donation. So by taking somebody to an intermediary page where there's all these different opportunities for ways to give, could actually cause some analysis paralysis, right, on the side of the donor.
It's the Walmart line. It's the Walmart line. It really is.
Good. Here's a question about testing itself. How do you test things, John? Do you run it for a period of time and then compare data between this period and the next, or tell us how that works?
In an ideal situation, what you're going to do is you're going to want to get some very basic, you can either get some very basic software that's out there that you can subscribe to, things like just Google, optimize.
Maybe.
It's free, right? And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to have your original experience and you're going to set up an alternate experience, at least one. And you're going to have Google do all the work for you. You're going to split the traffic. They're going to track the results. And they're going to tell you right away. Because here's the thing. If you do it one and then you do the other, you've got this thing called history effect, in which the conversion rate then could be different from the conversion rate after. And that's where it starts to get really weird and picky. The other thing is that when you test, you need to make sure you're collecting enough information, enough data. Google Optimize kind of helps you track that, but we also have some free tools that will help you figure out if you've collected enough data, because you could be like, yeah, treatment's winning, but you've got a sample size of 30? No, you need to collect enough sample size in order to do that. And then there's other things like, am I making sure that I'm getting the right audiences fairly on both sides? And there are also, we call them validity threats, but at the very core, it's about setting up one experience and the other experience and splitting the traffic real time.
Great.
Using something like Google Optimize and leaning on the tools that are available from us and from Google to just help you make sure that the result that you're finding is something that you could bet on.
Excellent. Great. Here's a question about third-party credibility indicators. So seals from the Better Business Bureau or Charity Navigator. Have we tested these, and do these increase donations on a page?
I do have at least 1 to 2 tests in the library that do show that and here's the best part about it, is that these icons already existed, but guess where I found them? Way in the footer, on the bottom right, really small. there have been some tests that have indicated when you move these icons in close proximity, so close to the point where they're clicking that button, right, to give, that's that place where they're most likely to have the doubts, right? We have seen an increase there. There's one test in particular that I can think of, and it's not that we added them to the page, it's that we moved them from out of sight to the right time. So that's not just an issue of whether you have it there or not. It's an issue of timing.
Yeah.
Now, if you put that too far up, and you're like, look at us, we are approved. Well, that's not what they're thinking about at that moment. They want to make sure they're in the right place. So imagine that a page is like a conversation. You're not going to kind of give somebody kind of the support. No, this is the right decision at the very beginning. Don't assume that they're going to even make a decision at the beginning. It's all about timing. So I have seen a test, at least a couple in our library, that say, John, you should do that, and that's why it's on the template.
Excellent. Okay, what about incentives, John? Would you recommend listing incentives on the main donation page? If so, how would you recommend that you present this information to the user in a way to make it appealing and to positively influence their gift?
Right. I would say for main donation pages, I have a number of tests that show me that an incentive or kind of a sweetener has actually helped. Right? And if you look at the template, you'll find that. Now, the way to do that is, again, the main focus should be about the main thing. This should be just kind of like and by the way, in the main inline. And then you might want to show them what it actually looks like. Put an image. We've found that if you put an image that shows what it is, and it's an honestly good incentive, you don't have to oversell it. You just need to let them know that it's something that you're going to give as a gift, a thank you gift for, giving $100 or more or something like that. You should put that in there, look at the template, and see kind of how we've designed it. You shouldn't have to sell it or explain it. They should be able to get the value right away. Number two, you need to test the incentive. Just because it's special to you doesn't mean that it's special to them. Think about your donors and what it is that they, like if they're baby boomers, for example, they really appreciate education and enlightenment, but it's got to be something they're interested in.
Right.
So, we've seen that just changing the incentive can make a massive difference on giving or no difference at all. So make sure you show, you've got some kind of a visual. Don't go too much, just enough to let them know, okay, yep, this is part of it. And don't make it feel like it's a transactional, like they're spending this much to get this. The moment that you make that shift, you lose them because they came there out of generosity, not out of getting a good deal. And I promise you, they're going to be able to get that book or that thing, better deal somewhere else than through giving your gift.
Yeah, and the one thing that I would add too is that there's a danger in conflating, right, the incentive and the offer, right?
Right.
So the offer is the impact that the donation is going to create, right?
Yes.
Whatever sort of impact that donor is going to have through your organization on whatever cause it is they're interested in.
Right.
The incentive is an appealing thing that they get in exchange for that.
Right.
And we just had a study done of our research from a group of PhDs.
Yes.
And this was a big common theme that came up in some of our research is that there's these two kind of conflating points of view of there's exchange relationships versus communal relationships. And what we really want to do is try to trigger and actually strengthen this idea of communal relationship where people are not giving to get. People are giving because they believe in the values that this organization represents. They believe in the impact that's being had through this organization, and they want to be part of this community of people that feel the same way and are trying to do something about it. So really great question. Speaking of images, though, because we talked about incentives and using an image to actually reinforce the value of that, here's a question about images itself. Is it valuable or distracting to add images to a donation page? Like, for example, a cute child who benefits from the donation that you're going to give.
Here's what I would tell you about images. Your image needs to reinforce the value of the offer. So, Tim, this is a perfect time for you to talk about what is the offer. It's that impact. That's the offer. It's not the incentive. So the image that you choose needs to fit within that, and it needs to fit within the spirit of what's in their mind. And usually what we do is we actually put the image in the background. Okay, so in the mobile, they don't even, but we found that, an image like that reinforces the value of the original offer in the background, kind of off to the side, could actually enhance donations by an incremental amount, single digit, maybe sometimes double, but mostly single. So yeah, it's something that you can use, but I would be careful about putting it in line in the offer where it's like getting all of this extra attention,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's doesn't directly support or, change the feeling, like take the feeling to an entirely new level.
Right.
It's to me, it's not the first thing that I'm going to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the last few things that I'm going to do.
Yeah, an image that either supports or enhances the primary value proposition that's being communicated on the page can have a positive effect. And we've seen that through some of our testing research, like where we use a picture of an individual person that's actually being impacted through this gift and how that makes an impact, whereas we have an image of a chart or a graph or something, it doesn't make a difference at all.
Yeah,
right?
So there are a number of different factors, but if you were to ask me, to do that, I would say don't focus on that first.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on some of these other things. The fortune cookie message itself, that is where you should begin, and then start dealing with images as a tightening, kind of tweaking theme.
Okay, well, it is exactly 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern, which means that we have concluded our webinar, and we don't want to keep you guys on. We know that you have very busy things and important work to do. So we want to thank you once again for joining us on today's webinar. We thank Jon again for all of his great work and his research. And thank you for making it fun, Jon. You always know how to kind of draw smiles out of us as we're sitting through this stuff. So thank you guys, and we look forward to seeing you folks next time. Goodbye.